Right, which is different from what you seem to have always thought.
Oh, I thought no, I thought you were 5 hours behind before, but then when I made it 5 hours behind, it seemed to do something. Never mind what I'll
Oh.
go back and I'll try and reanalyze what I've done wrong at a later date.
Well, we are on we're on Eastern Daylight Time here in Georgia, if that makes a difference.
I don't think it's the time. I think it's me. I think I'm not understanding the way Zoom works. I think I'm
Oh,
not understanding which box I tick and what that box refers to. I have to go back and reanalyze that.
I see.
Anyway, thank you very much for doing this. Are you
Yeah, of
okay being
course.
recorded?
Yes. Are you going to be using video and audio?
I hope so. Yes, but if you
Okay.
if you if you prefer not, then I'm happy to use just audio, or as I did with Bob Trivers the other day, just video, because I pressed the wrong button.
With Bob who?
Bob Trivers, he's an evolutionary biologist who I interviewed for one of these.
Oh, I see. Well, let me go put a little powder on my nose then.
Sure.
I'll be. Okay.
Okay then. How you doing?
I'm okay. I don't think I can compete with an evolutionary biologist when it comes to intellectual heft, but
I wouldn't worry about that. Anyway, I mean, it's nice to finally make your proper acquaintance. You've been beating me at Words with Friends for some couple of years now, is it?
I don't know. You hold your own. I think you've won the last several games,
But anyway, that's
and you
how
just froze
did
up
we
on
meet
me.
actually? We didn't meet on Words with Friends, did we? We met on Facebook, I think. Is that right?
Yes, I believe through the various skeptic communities on Facebook.
That might have been it. Ed Clint. I think we've got a mutual friend in Ed Clint. Oh, I think he's frozen. Are you still there?
Yeah, you're freezing on me a couple
Oh, I think we're
every
getting,
so often
we're getting
also.
intermittent thing. Um, anyway, so thanks for agreeing to do this. The idea was that I do a history and philosophy of science course for my undergraduates and my postgraduates,
Mm-hmm.
and there are all kinds of interesting things that they like to discuss. And you have a unique perspective on something that everybody is very excited to talk about at the moment. And I think a lot of people feel that they're also they want to know about this, but they're also walking on eggshells. You are, now, correct me if I get this wrong, you're the first person to take their employer to court for not recognise their transgender status. Is that right, or have I
No, not even close.
far away?
Um, um, uh, many people, I would say, going back at least the last several decades,
Mm-hmm.
have asserted um, their rights um, in various venues, um, military,
Mm-hmm.
employment, housing, that sort of thing. Um, and for the first several decades that this began, our rights were routinely dismissed by the courts. But I had a boss who fired me for being transgender in
Right.
2007. In 2007,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, it happened at essentially just the right time,
Mhm.
where the courts were starting to come around on the issue. In the United States, the courts were beginning to come around on the issue, and there had been a few recent court decisions in favor of upholding the employment rights of trans people,
Mhm.
and so everything just came together for me. And even despite that positive trend, there were a few additional things in my case uh, that were in my favor. One was that I was a government employee. I worked for the state of Georgia, so um, um, there tend to be additional protections for people, for government employees,
Mhm.
when it uh, around that area, and um, and we chose a legal theory for our lawsuit that was a little out of the mainstream,
Mhm.
but which we thought would work well with the southern judges that we would be facing first in our case. So in other words, Title VII is the federal law in the U.S. that says you can't discriminate against people because of their sex.
Mhm.
And uh, at the time we uh, uh, founded our lawsuit, um, uh, it wasn't. There had been conflicting cases on the matter of Title VII, whether it did or did not protect transgender people. So
Okay.
we filed our lawsuit on the grounds of the Equal Protection Clause
Mhm.
of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Right. And so you're the first person to won this. Would that be correct, or
I'm sorry.
are you the first person to have won on those grounds? Would that be correct?
Uh, under the terms of that.
Oh, lost you again. Sorry, we lost the last 5 seconds.
Yeah, under the terms of that particular legal theory, yes,
Mhm.
we won at the district court level, which is within the state of Georgia,
Mhm.
and then we won again at the circuit court level, which covered uh, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida.
Mhm.
And it was a major precedent, but it was also somewhat limited because it applied only in those three states,
Mhm.
and it applied only to government employees.
Okay.
So you know, time continued to march on, and precedents continued to be set, and so the big decision a month or two ago at the Supreme Court level in the U.S. was basically the holy grail that
Mhm.
said at the nationwide, you can't fire a trans person or any other LGBT person because of their trans or LGBT status,
Mhm.
uh, no matter whether they're a government employee or not.
Right.
And
Right. So
so
yeah. This was a major win in the last.
major win, yeah.
Um.
And for all people, that's something I always want to
Mm.
stress. Precedents like that don't only protect LGBT people. Uh, they also protect um, a straight man um, whose manner is considered effeminate,
Mhm.
um, or a straight woman who is judged for whatever reason to be not especially feminine.
Mhm.
So any sort of discrimination based on what people assume about how men and women should behave
Mhm.
is now verboten throughout the United States.
And this is a point Alice Drager makes very forcefully in her book, isn't it, Galileo's Middle Finger, that sort of injustice is injustice for all. You should.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I suppose that brings me to an interesting next point. It's kind of what the point you're making is a sort of sorry, I don't want to put words in your mouth. The point you might be making might be considered an anti-identity politics kind of point. It might be saying, well, actually, the crucial thing is justice for human beings, justice for people, rather than tying things too closely to a sense of identity. But I might be putting words in your mouth there. Is that?
No, that's. I mean, that's that is certain. That is absolutely true. That's not the most common way I see it phrased. But yeah, that is absolutely what is the case there. You know, that injustice for one is injustice for all. I don't know who said that, but it's a good way of summing it up. It also sounds a little bit like the Three Musketeers slogan. So.
I don't mind sounding like a musketeer. I'm comfortable with that. That's I'd be proud to. Why do you think there's been an explosion of interest? Because the transgender people have been around for a long time, but there's only really been an interest in the last. Well, I've seen an explosion of interest in the last decade, but I mean, it's been perhaps building for longer than that.
Well,
a perspective on that.
You know, it's just the way society evolves, and a small victory leads to another victory, and you know, as you start to pile up the victories, and people become more confident, and it makes the next victory, or at least the next battle, more likely to happen. That's part of it, and part of that is why. I have a cat in my lap. If you have,
no, he looks very much like the cat that wants to be in my lap at the moment.
Okay.
What's yours called?
Huxley.
Huxley. Oh, excellent. Okay, mine's called Babbitt. So they're both named after people who are important to science.
Yeah, I named her after T.H. Huxley, not Aldous Huxley.
Okay. All right.
And the goal was always to get a beagle and then name the beagle Darwin.
Very good. Yes.
The beagle and Huxley would be best friends, but
they would, yeah.
Huxley's pretty ornery, so it probably wouldn't work out that way. Anyway, yeah. So just basically being out, I think, more important than any sort of win in the judicial process. Being out, if you can do it safely, is important. And when people are out, other people who are not out see the possibilities. And you know, I see a lot of rhetoric from the right saying that being transgender is a fad, and that kids are declaring their gender identity, their transgender identity, and just because, you know, they see someone on TV doing it, which is pretty idiotic on its face. But I mean, but if there's any truth to that at all, it's not for that reason. It's simply because people see that they can do it, and they can safely be themselves, and you know, there's a snowball effect there.
I mean, do you think there has been an explosion of people declaring trans status? I mean, do you think there are any dangers in that? And this isn't necessarily from the right. There are people who, for example, there are people who are saying that we're erasing a generation of homosexuals. Is that something that you think is at all possible, reasonable, overblown, or completely miscarried?
That's ridiculous.
I'm just giving you a whole range there.
Sure. And in any event, trans people are not gay people necessarily. Some of us are, some of us aren't. It's you know, it's a related but separate phenomenon. But that is why, you know, again, it's just the snowball effect. If you see someone successfully defending their rights, it makes you feel confident that you can also defend your rights. If you see someone living their truth and being happy, it makes you think that you can do the same and be happy. And you know, that's why it seems to be there are more trans people and more gay and lesbian people today. It's not because there are more of us; it's just because more of us are out.
Right. Yeah. So it's. I mean, and this is possibly a phenomenon with a whole range of things where people think, oh, such and such is on the rise, and is it really a prevalence thing, or is it, well, you know, there was a lot of things that were hidden previously.
Right.
We're finding this with a range of things. Okay, I suppose people are kind of fascinated as to, I suppose, how you come to learn that things don't fit. Are you happy to talk about any of that, or is that too close to the bone or uncomfortable?
No, that's fine. It's it's a thing that's different for every individual.
Mm-hmm.
I began to come to an awareness of my gender identity around the time I was going through puberty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, prior to then, I'd had a completely normal boyhood. Um, I played with trucks. I was in the Cub Scouts. I love to go out in the backyard and get dirty.
Mm-hmm.
But it was around the time I hit puberty that I began to realize that something was different about me. And again, that's different for every trans person. That some know as early as the age of 3
Mm-hmm.
that uh, that the gender everyone had been treating them as was not their actual gender. And I've known other people who made it all the way into college and
Mm-hmm.
claimed to have had no idea.
So I think I might have frozen you again. I hope not.
Oh,
Oh no, you're back again. So would it be true to say that the incongruence is because you see how presumably adults or possibly other children are treating you, and you go, that's not right. I want them to be treating me more like this person, or just not like they're treating me, or a bit of both, or.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, I mean, I've got no idea what it's like to feel incongruent. I mean, I've got
Mm-hmm.
no idea about what it's like when I don't like the way people are treating me, but it doesn't attach itself to anything about myself that I think it doesn't. There's no sort of internal sense that I've ever had.
Well, it is definitely. I mean, it is part of how you people are treating you.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of your parents, how they're dressing you and
Mm-hmm.
uh, such like that. But it is more internal than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in middle school, I was, getting those feelings that kids start to get around that time,
Mm-hmm.
11, 12. I realize you don't have middle school as we know it in the UK.
Oh, I'm in Ireland at the moment. We have a kind of a middle school here,
Oh,
but not that much. I mean, I'm used to the UK as well. I grew up in the UK, so
yeah. I thought you worked in London.
I did. I've been over in Ireland for 8 years.
Oh, okay.
Have we
And
known each other that long? It's possible, you know. It's possible.
you are Irish or you're
No,
British?
no, but I am converting. I'm trying to get Irish citizenship at the moment.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that at all. What part of Ireland are you in?
Cork. I live in Cork,
Ah,
the correct capital of Ireland. As anyone from Cork who's listening to this will smile and nod as I say that. Cork is very much a strong sense of his own identity and does not like being second fiddle to Dublin in any way.
I see. Yeah, most of what I know about Ireland comes from watching Dairy Girls.
Oh right, yeah. Every Irish person I know enjoys that. They say it's horribly accurate. They tell me of their own childhoods. Yeah. Oh, have you frozen again? Oh, no, we've got you back.
Yeah, it's set in Belfast, which is, of
Yes.
course, in the north. But
Well, Derry is a very split city, but it's in the north.
right, yeah, and not to go off on a tangent, but if you could recommend a good book detailing the history of the Troubles, I've always wanted to know more about that.
Well, Cork was in many ways at the centre of it. Almost 100 years ago,
Really?
the British burned Cork down
Huh.
because it was a centre for Sinn Féin and the IRB, which is our Republican Brotherhood, and the IRA.
Huh.
So a lot of the places I will drink and work and teach in are named after famous Republican fighters: Michael Collins, Tom Barry. The mayor of this town was Terence McSweeney, who
Mm-hmm.
was starved to death by the British, and he was. It's fascinating to me that he's not more widely known, because he was cited with huge authority by people like Mahatma Gandhi, or Ho Chi Minh, or Nelson Mandela, all of whom were very explicitly inspired by his particular take on things. So Cork is full of things like that. So yeah, certainly I'll send you a whole list very happily.
I would love
that. My way through some things at the moment. Yeah, it's a fascinating place to live for that. And there's a big Sinn Féin presence here. Although I have to say, a lot of people, when they know this, they say, keep your voice down, Rob, because of course I sound very English. I've never had any problems along those lines. I couldn't. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I'm more likely to wander into a place in England and have somebody pick on me for my accent than I am in Ireland. I think it was George Orwell said, "No Englishman can open his mouth without another Englishman despising him." And that's definitely true. So maybe people are just much more polite to my face. But anyway, no, I'm reading up on a lot of that stuff, so I'll happily share it. It's really interesting times.
Is Cork on the border?
Not at all. No, very much in the heart. It's very much you haven't got any cities any further south than this. Go a little bit more south, but there aren't any cities there.
Right.
And it's very solidly. A lot of the big battles of Irish independence were fought, literally a stone's throw from where I'm sitting.
Oh, I thought Cork was a county, not a city.
Oh yes, it's and you can get T-shirts with a big map of Cork. So I'll stand up, so a big map of Cork, and it'll just be Cork, not Cork. The rest of Cork has a very very strong sense of its own identity. So actually, I suppose it's a good place to be talking about where people get a sense of identity from. Where is that? You raise a very interesting question there. One thought that pops into my head is that there have been cultures where there's been an attempt, and you get individuals trying to do this as well, where they're trying to raise children completely gender neutral. So famously, Maoist China at least tried to do that on the surface. The kids are all dressed the same, allegedly treated the same. I don't know how far it went. And you get parents saying that they'll do things like they'll raise their kid and they won't tell people what gender they are.
Right.
Do you think it would have an effect on people's identity, or do you think the internal pressure there is going to completely trump any of those kinds of external?
I think that's silly. Most children are going to be cisgender. Most people across the world are going to be cisgender. I don't see any harm whatsoever in raising your child the gender that they appear to be. And if that's not correct, then they're going to tell you.
Right.
Just trust your children to know who they are. Is the lesson there.
I find a lot of middle class friends, and particularly ones who are having kids, they start feeling very guilty about. I don't want my daughter playing with toys, certain kinds of toys, or I don't want my boys playing with certain kinds of toys.
Sure.
I can see why somebody might feel a little bit anxious about certain kinds of gender roles being presented in toys, but
sure.
I think kids do. If you give them opportunities, they'll pick the thing that suits them. Do you have anything about that kind of? Which suggests a strong internal pressure.
Yeah, when it comes to toys or clothes for that matter, just take your kid to the store and say, what would you like to wear? Or what would you like to play with? Leave that up to them. I don't want to speak too authoritatively about this because I don't have children myself. So the only experience I can draw on is my own. But it just seems common sense to just listen to your child. Give them what they want, and don't complain if what they want is not what you want them to have.
Well, yeah, this is just parents and offspring, isn't it? That's just
sure.
It may have very little to do with gender. At puberty, I've spoken to a lot of people about the sort of their sense of sexual identity, and it's certainly. It seems to fall into a number of camps. But for example, I have a number of lesbian friends who will tell me about a particular experience that they had, and it quite often involves a birthday and a dress. and they'll go, right, there
Mm-hmm.
was a particular party dress that I was expected to wear when I was 7 or something, and then kind of
Right.
go, and they'll be, and they remember a sense of rebellion about it. And now, whether or not this is, but I don't know how reliable these kinds of memories are, or how enhanced they are, or because it's very hard with sort of childhood stuff.
Sure.
But it's certainly a story that gets repeated often. That sort of they realise that they what was being presented to them wasn't the way they felt. Yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
what you're describing sounds similar, but also very different from that. In that you did feel you fitted in with the other boys when you're like 7, but not at puberty.
Right.
And I was, go on.
I would hasten to add that there are lesbians who
Mm.
who probably love wearing party dresses.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
They're very femme lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
They're butch trans women. So it's incredibly important not to pigeonhole anybody, because we're an ice cream shop. We come in all flavors.
Right. But of course, as a scientist, I'm desperate to pigeonhole everybody, and to find the axes on which. Well, we want to find. I don't necessarily put people in a pigeonhole, but definitely want to find what are the measurable axes. Well, if everyone was the same, then we'd be out of a job. So behavioural scientists are always looking for variance. We always
Sure.
want, how does this vary from this, and then we can measure something. And if
Right.
there's no variance, we've got nothing to measure. So we want an axis of variance, where things will change along it. And it strikes me that one of the things that's happening here is that there are multiple axes. Okay. So,
Sure.
and that often doesn't sit happily with what people would like the world to be like. They would like there to be at least be a couple of axes, perhaps.
Right.
One very easy axis. There's this idea that sex is a spectrum, which would be very odd if it was true, because it's not true of any other species. But it certainly could be true that there could be multiple axes,
Sure.
and that people vary along those in a number of interesting kinds of ways. And do you think we're getting any closer to understanding that when you look at the way the science is done around this? Does it feel like it's making progress, or does it feel like it describes your experience, or not?
Gosh, I don't really keep up with the science probably as much as I should. Bear in mind that I transitioned more than a decade ago now.
Mm-hmm.
So for the most part, I'm just and my lawsuit concluded in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So to a large extent, I just live my life now.
Right.
I would hope that people are always increasing their understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Scientists, especially, sometimes it feels like we're backsliding, and there's still many things to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the current questions that are much debated are whether or not trans people can, especially trans students, can participate fully in sports
Mm-hmm.
alongside their peers. And the best information I've seen is that you should,
Mm-hmm.
and that trans women don't have any special advantages over cisgender women when it comes to competing in sports.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that for all sports, or is it just for some sports? Because there's certainly been some question about some injuries in things like mixed martial arts, for example.
Yeah.
I've forgotten her name. Something Fox.
Fallon Fox.
Fallon Fox. That's it. Thank you. Yeah.
Right.
There were some concerns about her, I know.
Well, if you dig down into these stories, you usually find that there's not much that's there. I believe it was Fallon Fox, where one of her competitors was complaining when Fallon Fox beat her in a
Mm-hmm.
match, that she had unfair advantages, and or maybe these were bicyclists.
There was a cycling complaint. Yeah.
Anyway, in a particular case, I'm struggling to remember. A competitor lost to a trans woman, claimed that the trans woman had unfair advantages. But then when you looked at the statistics, you saw that same cisgender athlete had beaten her trans competitor in 11 previous go-rounds.
Okay, that's interesting. I'll check that one out.
So the trans athlete was consistently beaten by this other athlete, and then when she finally won, for a change, claims of unfair privilege were made against her.
I know that intersex athletes, people like Caster Semenya, sometimes get lumped in with trans athletes, and that doesn't.
I don't think Caster Semenya has actually publicly declared that she is intersex.
Oh, is she not? Oh, well, maybe I'm conflating.
I mean, I think that is the general consensus, but I think she is, as is her right. Absolutely, has been very private about that. But yeah, I mean, just taking it for granted that maybe she's intersex, then yeah, that is and these are good questions. I would, if they figure out how long it takes for the effect of testosterone to leave the trans system, I would have no problem with saying, don't let them compete professionally or statistically until that time has been reached. It's it's a little invasive.
We have a lot of leagues in sports, don't we? I used to box a while back, and it sort of struck me that there are lots of leagues within boxing. I mean, I don't just mean amateur and professional. It's obviously there's that.
Sure.
Also, weight classes.
Sure.
We're constantly trying to create a number of roughly level playing fields, for want of a better term. We do it in disabled sports as well. There are 8, or at least maybe I don't know. There used to be 8 different categories of disability for Olympic sports.
Sure.
And actually fighting over the boundary of which one you were meant to be in is
right. I learned about that when Atlanta hosted the Paralympic Games back in 1996. There's above the knee, below the knee classifications.
Yes.
Double amputee, single amputee. It's all very interesting.
Yeah. Well, also making weight was always a big deal in boxing. Back when I was doing it, you see people do it. They would try and get down a couple of pounds by running around with a sweatsuit on, and that was actually very dangerous, because you were potentially draining liquids from the bits that would protect your brain. I mean, it strikes me that maybe this is that kind of issue. I mean, there may be a kind of a leagues type issue here. I'm not quite sure how you decided, incidentally, but I do know that there are people talking about having sort of separate leagues for trans athletes. I don't know whether that'd be practical. Do you have any thoughts about it? It might be practical.
I don't know. I mean, I run every day, so
famously, yes, you're part of a running every day app. Is it an app or is it just a? I mean, there are various communities for run streakers, as we're called. I'm not formally a member of any of them, but yeah, I have been running every day for 7 or so years. Okay.
But anyway, still, I wouldn't call myself an athlete at any sort of competitive level.
But still, you do like a 5K every day, don't you? Something like that.
That is my minimum, yes.
See, I suppose you've been in a position where you felt any kind of different. Do you feel that transitioning did it affect your running in any way? I mean, you've got a sort of more objective measure here.
I am much slower than I was.
Okay.
Of course, now I'm much older than I was, so both of those are going to have an effect. And there would be very little point in trying to tease out to what extent either of those has had an effect. It's I run on the treadmill. I watch TV while I run. I'm in no way competitive about it. I just do it for serenity and fitness.
And it works with that. Okay, we're coming up to the sort of the limit of Zoom's recording on my thing. I think I get about 45
Okay.
minutes of recording before it starts getting
All
a bit
right.
funny. Is there anything you wished I'd asked you that I failed to? If we're sort of talking about these kinds of issues for interested undergraduates and postgraduates who are, I suppose, just interested in how something has come from what was the fringes to now quite mainstream, and lots of people feel entitled to an opinion on a topic
Right.
that was very abstract and esoteric a decade
Right. I don't know. What did you talk to your evolutionary biologist about?
Honor
I
killings
can.
and
What?
breast cancer.
Killings and breast cancer?
On honor killings and breast cancer. He was interested in patterns of honor killings across different kinds of cultures.
Ah,
How is it there could be evolutionary mechanisms for Trevor's work is all about genes in conflict. So it's all about how can you have underlying genes for particular kinds of patterns of behaviors. And he's particularly interested in ones that look like they couldn't be adaptive.
ah. Okay. So he left the
Sorry?
lane. He left the lane of speckled moth changes in frequency wide open for me, didn't he?
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Anything adaptive there. I don't think anybody's looking for any sort of adaptive stories for transitioning. I think the general consensus would be that that's just perhaps, well, I don't know. I'm speculating here. This is the sort of thing that you'd expect with a species that's as complicated as humans, with as many
Right.
complicated interlocking mechanisms that humans have every so
You
often.
know, I think gender is a human phenomenon
Mm-hmm.
that exists at such a complicated level of our brains that uh, number one, I don't think you could ever tease out whatever adaptive factors may have contributed to it. Sometimes I have wondered if, you know, various biological theories as to why
Mm-hmm.
people turn out transgender. I have wondered if any of those apply to other species as well. And
Mm-hmm. Okay.
my assumption is that whatever is different about trans people biologically that makes us trans probably also applies to some other species as well, but that their brains just aren't complex enough
Mm-hmm.
to process and to understand that at the level that we do. Although you do see cross-sex behavior in other
Oh
species.
yes, yeah. Yes, you have. What are they called? There's certainly some. Well, there are plenty of intersex conditions with a lot of other species, aren't there?
Sure.
Which isn't the same thing, but
No.
it probably highlights the kinds of underlying mechanisms which might result in similar things.
Right.
Which is kind of, but you're suggesting there's an extra layer with humans, which of course is quite likely. We've got quite thick cortexes, and we're constantly trying to make sense of the world in ways that other animals probably aren't. They're probably trying to.
True.
I don't think dogs sit there sort of wondering if they know that they're good dogs because you call them good dogs, but they probably don't think about the abstract of what it is to be a good dog. Whereas humans will sit up all night worrying about stuff like that when they. And cats don't worry about it at all. They're just not interested in whether you think they're good or anybody else thinks they're good. So it could well be just linked to the fact that we are meaning-making creatures, and we're trying to make meaning out of the lives that we're
Right.
living. That we sort of go, well, this is not the kind of meaning my life should have. So that this underlying thing must be sort of incongruent. I'm putting this very, very broadly.
Right.
Does that make any kind of sense?
Yeah. You just reminded me of a headline in one of those satirical newspapers I saw many years ago that was scientists successfully teach gorilla that it will die one day.
No. And there's a sort of gorilla goes, oh, thanks for that. Yeah. That's very interesting, because that was the topic of Nick Humphrey. I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago, and he was very
Right.
interested in the fact that humans commit suicide, and this is a thing that occurs to humans, that they can end their pain, and
Mm,
probably not something that occurs to any other animal in the same kind of way. And so
exactly.
we've got various kinds of ways of dealing with that.
Sure.
You're not allowed to opt out quite that rapidly.
Mhm.
And we sort of, we've got all kinds of things we do about that. So people kind of look at an evolutionary function of suicide, and Nick was saying, well, that's just all wrong. I mean, that's just not the way to think of it at all. It's a sort of byproduct of the fact that we're meaning-making creatures, and we know that we're going to die. So no, you say, okay, I've got an escape hatch now. If life gets too painful, which probably the other animals will exhibit what looks like suicidal behaviour. I used to keep bees, and they will exhibit something like suicidal behaviour, but that's not a puzzle. They're massively related to each other, and they're doing it on behalf of the hive. Whereas
Right.
most human suicide's not like
True.
that. Okay, what a grim topic to end on. Have you got anything happier to end on than suicide?
Um, the U.S. elections are only 3 months away.
Are you feeling positive about them?
Uh, I'm feeling cautiously optimistic
Okay.
that our long national nightmare is about to end.
It does look very odd from the out. I mean, we have a bit of a nightmare in the UK at the moment.
True.
And it's a related nightmare. Did you see Did you see his interview today with what was the chap's name now? Jonathan Swan.
No.
Oh, well, that might cheer you up a bit, maybe.
By his, did you mean Boris Johnson or Donald
Oh
Trump?
no, I was thinking of your eminent leader, it does look like a bit of a political car crash. Now, whether that will, I watched the things, and people say he's in free fall, and you look at I think the needles just sort of moved a couple of percentage points.
Right.
But do you worry that he might not go, even if you kick him out?
Oh no, if he loses the election, he's going to have to go. He has no power to keep that from happening. If Joe Biden is elected president, then on January 20th at noon, 2021, then Donald Trump would, if he doesn't leave, is just a very high-profile trespasser.
Right. Well, that's do you think it could cause enough trouble that the transfer of power isn't as peaceful as we all hope, though? Because that is one of America's legacies to the world, isn't it? It's the peaceful transfer of power.
Well, I think it will be peaceful, but it might also be very messy. He might go crazy with his pardon power. He might try to pardon himself.
You couldn't rule it out, could you? I mean,
no, he really, with this person, you can't rule anything out, and that is cause for concern. He could direct all his cabinet secretaries to go on a paper shredding spree. So
that apparently was part of Trump University. That was part of the documentation of Trump University. I mean, this feels like it's back in the distant past, but there was a lawsuit about Trump University.
Yes.
And the documentation was brought out, and I forget who did a piece on it. Someone like John Oliver did a piece on it, but they actually had some of the things, because it was a pyramid scheme, effectively, wasn't it? He wasn't anything to do with it; it was just his name on it. But they had documentation that was given to the people that ran the place, which had emergency procedures for what happens if you get raided by the feds. And so there were actual procedures in the school. So as you'll see there, if the feds raid you, you have to burn this and shred that and leave through the fire escape or whatever. And it's just, well, I suppose I've long been a fan of America, because this is the country that the Enlightenment built. And it's fascinating to watch how the Constitution deals with someone who is openly criminal. I mean, he's not hiding that fact. And also, a third of the population seem to want, and this isn't about America, but this is a third of every population seems to want to be run by someone who is like that. What happens when it happens? What happens when all these checks and balances that were brought in to stop things like overmighty emperors and kings being in charge again? What happens when somebody wants to be? And enough of the population wants him to be that they vote him in. It is, on an abstract level, sort of fascinating to watch that. From the inside, though, I suspect it's just more horrifying than fascinating?
Yes.
Sorry, but do you feel there's been a bumpy but general improvement in trans people's rights during the? I mean, I know Trump's tried to roll it back, but he hasn't really succeeded, has he?
Not really. Not. I mean, he did ban trans people from the military, and as far as I know, that is
That's
still
still in
in
place, is
effect.
it? Okay.
And I'm a veteran myself.
Okay.
I didn't transition while I was in the Navy, but that's partly because I knew that I wouldn't have been able to.
Right. Which bit of the Navy were you in?
I'm sorry?
Which part? What was your role? My father was in the Navy. I was just being.
Oh, I was a surface warfare officer in the Pacific on a guided missile cruiser.
Okay. My father served with the American Navy in the Second World War.
Oh wow, good for him.
So I'm no kind of expert, but I mean I will understand some of the references.
Wait, so was he an American?
No, his ship was sunk, and they were picked up by Americans. So he was, I'll get this right way around. He was on the Khedive, I think, which was a British ship, and it was sunk. And he was
the what?
the Trumpeter. I think it was that way around.
What was the name of the ship?
The Khedive, 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 and I think he was picked up by the Trumpeter. There were those support carrier ships. He was on support. He was originally in the Fleet Air Arm, which was the I suppose the Navy's equivalent of the carrier-based stuff. Royal Navy stuff. But then his ship was sunk by a Japanese submarine, and he was picked up by American ships, and they were then seconded to American ships, the crew that survived. So I was brought up with stories of the American Navy, I suppose, to some extent, but in a theatre of conflict. And was it easy to fit in, hard to fit in? Were you aware of you're aware of your transgender feelings well into it by that stage, presumably? Yes,
but I was also well used to keeping it to myself by that time. So it was no more difficult for me than civilian life had been. But I did, actually it was good for me in some ways, because I was stationed at my ship was home ported at Pearl Harbor.
Oh, right.
And I discovered while I was there that the Polynesian culture generally is much more accepting of trans people. And
yes, they have a particular role, don't they, for folk, Farfarine, aren't they, who don't fit traditional gender roles, for example.
That is, I think that is not a term that was used in Hawaii, but I have heard it. The term in Hawaii, and I don't know if it comes from Hawaiian or some other Polynesian language, but it was mahu, M-A-H-U, and there was they had their own hangouts in Honolulu's Chinatown. So I actually took my first few tentative steps out of the closet during that time. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah.
And when you finally did go through the transition process, is there any way of describing what the relief is in that? I suppose it's hard to put into words, is it?
It is hard to put into words. It was, but it just boils down to I guess the word would be alignment or congruence. You just feel like your outside matches your inside for the first time, and it brings peace with it. It brings an inner calm. There's probably some Buddhist word that perfectly sums it up, but I don't know.
Well, that sounds really good. I have a PhD student at the moment who is she's we've got a grant to study why it is that transgender folk have difficulty accessing healthcare in Ireland. So it's quite prestigious. I mean, she's got herself a bit of money from the government to actually go and study this kind of thing.
Is she trans herself?
She's not. Her partner is.
Ah, okay.
And I suppose, have you got any hints or tips for her? She would things that she ought to, things that people might not think of even being asked, things that doctors might not be even aware that they're missing out on, I guess? Anything of those? I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here suddenly.
Yeah, I mean, as far as healthcare goes, it's been my experience that all of the doctors that I've dealt with in any way that intersected with my trans identity have been really, really good, really compassionate, really knowledgeable. That has not always been the case with their staffs.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So, like one time early in my transition, I went to visit my endocrinologist, and I signed in with the receptionist, and I sat down to wait. I had not legally changed my name at that point yet, and so when the time came for my appointment, the receptionist began loudly calling out the name that I no longer went by.
Oh, right. And you think they were actually making a very deliberate attempt to draw attention to this, and it was like...
I don't think they were. I think they just didn't know any better.
Right.
Despite how I was dressed, despite the name I gave when I checked in, despite all of that, people can be very can be thoughtless unless they're not specifically trained. And I wouldn't maybe expect a receptionist at a podiatrist's office to know that, or a dermatologist, but this was an endocrinologist,
right?
Who's a significant portion of his practice was trans people. So
right, okay, yeah, yes, yeah. You would expect someone to have a bit more sensitivity than that. Did you say anything? How did the situation resolve?
No, I didn't. That was, that's another thing is trans people often are very loath to call attention to ourselves, because especially when we don't look as cisnormative as we might like. If you draw attention to yourself, it very quickly becomes negative attention,
right?
Or unpleasant attention. So it is a very, very common phenomenon for trans people to be very, very shy and wallflowery.
Right. Yes. Well, that's useful stuff to know. Thanks. Okay, yeah. I'm going to draw this to a close because it's been about an hour. Interesting talking to you, and nice to actually, talk to a moving face rather than a moving face for a change. And thanks very much for doing this. Obviously, you'll of course have any kind of say over the final edit.
You can do whatever you want.
Oh, I mean, don't worry. I wouldn't let anything go out sort of publicly without people being able to go, I can take this back, or I didn't know how that turned out. It's going to take me a couple of weeks to come around to edit things, unfortunately, because I'm trying to buy a house at the moment, and my car just got. But I'm going to go off and see it in an hour or so. And my car with half my worldly goods in it got burned out a couple of days ago. So I'm just
right.
I'm just juggling a lot of, and I'm not terribly good at these kinds of things at the best of the time.
What the hell happened there?
Bad luck. I was parked down at my department behind big locked gates because of the COVID crisis. I'd moved a lot of stuff out of my office because we couldn't go back to the office. So I'd locked my materials in my car because I'm living with a friend, boxes and all the rest of it. And so somebody decided to
join. Frozen Robert.
Sorry?
Oh, did we just lose the
no,
feed?
You're back again. It just says internet connection is unstable. Oh, looks like we might be ending by default.